that's the website that we want to test. So I'll go up to my base URL. Again, I'm using the WebdriverIO test runner, not the standalone version. So in here, I've got my test command, my npm test command that just runs the WebdriverIO command, the WDIO test runner command. So when I type in npm test, it's basically telling it to run WebdriverIO. So that's that. Next up, I'm going to actually run a test. So here's some more timeouts. This is wait for. So if you're waiting for an element to show up, that's how long it's going to wait for it. That's Selenium grid issues. And then again, you had the Mocha timeout here that we can also use. There's also one for Jasmine as well if you want to. So that's what's going on there. And dang. Sorry, messing around with stuff that I shouldn't be. I get so distracted so quickly. It's amazing how that happens. Okay, so that's why in my videos I do a heck of a lot of fine-tuning, and editing. We'll test the header. So let's go ahead and open up the test specs and then header file. And we can get rid of that. We can say homepage. We're going to load the URL, and then instead of saying it should look good, it should have a header element. So what we could do, instead of running that, we could do expect browser is existing, and then in our page itself, we want to get the element. So I wonder if Angular is able, or not Angular, WebdriverIO is able to select by this value, the nav, the SD nav bar and all that, or if it falls back to the actual HTML elements. I don't know. We'll see about that. But what I want is a, let's see, nav bar. I guess let's try this. Let's search for the SD nav bar. So I'm going to pass that in like a regular element selector, and I'm going to expect this to be true. And it's probably not going to be true because when you first load the page, see how it says loading right there? So that's what we're missing. And then what I could do is a browser.pause and wait 5 seconds, because that's about how long it takes for this page to load, and then do that. So I'm first gonna run it like this, see that it fails. Actually, I'm gonna wait 5 seconds and then see that it passes first, just to make sure that this SD nav bar selector actually works. So let's close that, come back in here, hit my test. Weird. My attempt to save time, I guess, didn't save time. So I've got to just completely wipe out my node modules and then install everything again. So unfortunately that didn't work. I'm gonna move this over so that I got that there. And then while that's running, I'll come back in here. And what else can we look at? So we've got the home selector, we've got some content with a class of wrapper. That wouldn't be a terrible thing to hook into. Class of page. There's our chat box. We can even send some questions. What color is the sky? Doesn't understand. Oh, questions about Angular. Is Angular better than React? Not quite sure. Oh, that's quite humble of the chat bot to say. Okay. Enough of that tomfoolery. Cannot find module. What did I do? Unmet peer dependency, WebdriverIO 4.7. Well, isn't that strange? That's what I get for trying things, trying to save time. Just ruin it all. I've got so many drinks around me to try and save my raspy voice, but it's not working. Better than... Is that how you spell scriptaculous? Yeah, you know, you're not sure about anything, are you? Okay, so it did run. It says that it passed. So in theory, if I remove this pause, it should fail when I run that, because the page won't be ready in time. And I should be able to see the page pop up. Yeah. How about that? Because there are, I believe, because there's network traffic going on, Selenium waits until that network traffic has loaded before running the commands. So it's actually, even though this element isn't on the page when you first load run browser URL, it is when you run is existing. So I can actually console log in here before check. And let's see. We're going to do a before load and then load it and then run a before. Let's just do after load. And let's see if this blocks the script execution any significant amount of time. So we should be able to see it say before load, and then it should pause while it's loading. So you can see it's actually not, it hadn't run after check until after the page has loaded. So that's pretty cool that it helps you out in that way. And that's because we've got some network requests going on in the background, which is nice because you don't have to do much there. So I think it's because it's loading the JavaScript and everything that's going on. Now, let's see. I've had some issues with CSS font loading. And basically trying to, you saw how that font kind of, it took a second for that font to fade in. Let's see, not that font. Oh God, Comic Sans. But there we go. Let's see if this has it. Loading, and then the font shows up, and then it changes. So what I'm looking at here is when I reload this page, you may have just seen it, but basically it changes from the built-in Helvetica font to this other font via a JavaScript file. And so if I did something like, let's see, I'm thinking about throwing in a set timeout in here just to slow things down a little bit. Console log. So there's the console. So that's where it's loaded. These are the different statuses going on. And one thing I want to see, okay, so that's this class is what gets added to this paragraph in order to, or maybe to the body. I think it gets added to the body. Let's see, paste that. Yeah, body, it adds this class to the body element. So, and then it switches to this font. So here's where I could come in here and say, set timeout and tell the JavaScript to wait like 5 seconds for, oh man. Let's see if that worked. There. Okay. So if I reload it, there. So what happened was the font was loaded already, but it never set this class on the body. So if I inspect this, we'll see a body class here of, not there, sorry, inside this iframe. We have a body class of not to regular loaded, and that's where our font family is defined. So if you've got something where maybe you want to hide your font, so you see when it loads the page, that font shows and then it flashes over to the different font. That can be kind of frustrating for a user if they're in the middle of reading something and then the fonts all of a sudden change and it looks kind of funky. So some sites will hide the text until the font has loaded, and then once the font has loaded, it'll show it. And it could do that with something like opacity of 0. And inside the font loaded, it sets the opacity back to 1. So you'll see when the page first loads, if I refresh it, the font's not loaded, so it actually, the text is there, it's just hidden because of this opacity 0. And then as soon as the font is loaded, it shows up. So yeah, this is a pretty common technique out there. I don't know how common it is, but it's a technique out there used for font loading, and it's something that can really get in the way of websites or of testing, because you have, say you have a button that says save, and you want to click that button. Well, you can't click that button until the page has loaded, otherwise it's going to give you an element error. So let's go ahead and try that out. Actually, if I close that out, open on cross-browser testing. No, I want, I wonder, all I want to do is just load this single frame. What's that do? Okay, so this is the page that I'm going to test out. It says it's in Latin because it's in Latin. Yeah, let's translate it. Especially thanks, blinded by the desire to present, unless a pleasure is often pain. That is too true. It's too true. Anyway, this is instead of testing that NGBot, we are going to test another thing. Just to better show how you can do some of these wait for commands. So I'm just trying to figure out how much I want to put in each section. I think I could just put base URL, the whole thing in there, but oh well, I'm just going to go with this. I'm going to load the page, and then I'm going to not wait. And I said it should have a button element, and I'm going to see that is existing button is there. And this is going to be true, but when I go to click the button, it should throw an error because the button isn't clickable because it's not visible. It's the opacity is down to 0, so it's not clickable. So if I go and run this test, let's see if I know what I'm talking about or if I just have no clue at all what's going on. Expected false to be true. So in this instance, it didn't even find that button. Let's run it again and see if this is true or if I just had an issue loading the page, because I may have had an issue with loading the page. Okay, so it's not an issue loading the page, but it is an issue loading the font. It looks like that font never loaded. I wonder if there's some sort of cookie set on here that it doesn't let you load the page. Looks like it. It doesn't like that. Here's what I'm doing. So I've got this pulled up in my in another profile, and when it tries loading the page, it's just completely telling me no.